I remember the moment clearly, or at least I thought I did. It was a Tuesday afternoon and I was absolutely sure I saw him drop the phone. But later that day, something didn't feel right. Not about him, about me. Before we begin, please support MindShift Stories by subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a comment. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories with the world. I work in a small marketing office. Nothing fancy, just a quiet space, soft keyboard clicks, occasional coffee breaks, and people trying to get through their deadlines. That day started like any other. I got in around 9:10, a little late, grabbed my coffee, and sat down across from Ryan. He's the kind of coworker who's always calm, always polite, almost too careful with everything he does. Around noon, something small happened. Ryan stood up to grab something from the printer. As he walked past my desk, I heard a light thud. I glanced up and saw his phone on the floor. He paused for a second, picked it up quickly, looked around, and then just walked away. I remember thinking, that's weird. Why would he look around like that? It stuck with me for some reason. Not because it was important, but because it felt slightly off. Later that afternoon, we were all sitting in the break area. Casual conversation, nothing serious. Someone mentioned how clumsy people get when they're distracted. And without really thinking, I said, yeah, like earlier, when Ryan dropped his phone and looked around like he didn't want anyone to notice. It was such a small comment. I wasn't accusing him of anything, just sharing something I thought I saw. Ryan looked at me confused. He said, I didn't drop my phone. There was a brief silence. Not awkward, just unexpected. I laughed lightly. No, you did, around noon, near my desk. He shook his head. I didn't even have my phone with me then. It was charging. Now I felt that slight tension, the kind that doesn't show on your face, but shifts something internally. I was so sure. I remember thinking, why would he deny something so small? But then someone else spoke up. Wait, I was at the printer around that time, Sarah said. I think that was me. I dropped my phone. That's when everything went quiet in my head. Not outside, just inside. Because suddenly, my memory didn't feel as solid as it did a few seconds ago. I didn't say much after that. Just nodded, brushed it off, and went back to work. But the thought stayed with me. I was so sure it was Ryan. Not I think, not maybe, I was certain. I could picture it. The phone falling, him picking it up, that quick glance around the room. Except it wasn't him. That night, I couldn't stop replaying it. I sat on my couch, trying to reconstruct the moment exactly as it happened. But something strange started to happen. The more I tried to remember it, the less clear it became. Details started shifting. Was he really looking around? Or did I just assume that because he seemed like the kind of person who would? Was I actually looking directly at him? Or did I just hear the sound and fill in the rest? That's when a slightly uncomfortable thought crossed my mind. What if I didn't actually see what I think I saw? The next day, I decided to test something. Not in a scientific way, just out of curiosity. I asked Sarah casually, yesterday when you dropped your phone, did you look around after? She paused. Yeah, I think so. Why? That answer hit me in a very quiet but very real way. Because that's exactly what I remembered Ryan doing. That was the turning point for me. Not because of the phone, but because of what it revealed. I didn't just misremember who dropped the phone, I unknowingly borrowed details from someone else and attached them to the wrong person. And the scary part? It felt completely real. Over the next few days, I became more aware of how often this happens. At work, in conversations, even in small daily decisions. I'd catch myself thinking something like, I'm pretty sure they said this, or I remember it happening that way. But now there was doubt. Not in a paranoid way, just a quiet awareness that my brain wasn't a perfect recorder. It was more like a storyteller. I started noticing how easily assumptions slip in. Ryan always seemed reserved, a little self-conscious, so when I saw something unclear, my brain filled in the gaps in a way that matched that image. It didn't feel like guessing, it felt like remembering. And that changed how I saw people. Before, I trusted my first impressions almost automatically. If something felt true, I assumed it probably was. But now, I realized how much of that truth is shaped by tiny influences I don't even notice. A tone of voice, a facial expression, something someone else says later. All of it quietly edits the memory. A few days later, I had a conversation with Ryan. Nothing dramatic, just normal office talk. But at one point I said, "Hey, about the other day, I think I mixed that up." He smiled slightly. "Yeah, I figured." There was no tension, no judgment, but I felt something shift internally. Not guilt exactly, more like awareness. Because if I hadn't been corrected, I would have carried that false memory forward, maybe even repeated it again, and each time it would have felt just as real. That's the part that stayed with me, not the mistake itself, but how easily it could have become part of my truth. Since then, I've caught myself in similar moments. Arguments where I was so sure I remembered something a certain way. Situations where I felt confident about what someone meant. And now, there's always a small pause. A quiet question in the back of my mind. Do I actually remember this, or does it just feel like I do? It hasn't made me less confident. If anything, it's made me more careful, more open, more willing to listen instead of immediately defending what I think I know. Because the truth is, our brains don't just store memories, they rebuild them. Every time we recall something, we're not accessing a perfect recording, we're reconstructing it, adding, removing, adjusting, often without realizing it. And sometimes, those small changes aren't harmless. They shape how we see people, how we judge situations, how we make decisions. Looking back, that moment with the phone seems insignificant, but it revealed something much bigger, that what feels certain isn't always accurate, and what feels like truth might just be a very convincing version of it. Now, whenever I remember something clearly, especially something involving another person, I don't just ask, "What happened?" I ask, "How sure am I really?" Because sometimes the most honest thing you can say isn't, "I remember." It's, "I might be wrong." And that one small shift in perspective, it changes everything.